Nowadays, it seems like every other anime that comes out is an isekai. That's not necessarily a bad thing in itself. I mean, who didn't daydream as a little kid, or to this day as a grown man child, about escaping the stresses, pressure, and chaos of the rat race that is this world? Who wouldn't want to live in a fantasy world during a simpler time, where dragons, elves, orcs, magic, and hidden godlike potential are just a typical Thursday? But the problem with the vast majority of these isekai that are being popped out every year like prom night babies on Teen Mom is that they seem to follow pretty much the same formula. Loser incel gets yeeted into another world with all his memories. He finds himself in trouble or an overwhelming situation, but quickly realizes he's insanely gifted and overpowered, despite having little to no training. He quickly becomes one of, if not the, most powerful person in this fantasy world, and subsequently collects an absolute flock of cute anime girls as his harem. As our main character continues on his adventures, this cookie-cutter recipe repeats forever, with them easily dispatching seemingly impossible enemies while continuing to add additional groupies. I mean, totally realistic and relatable comrades that definitely have their own distinct personalities beyond simping for the main character. Don't get me wrong, this formula seems to work to some extent, and that's why so many of these studios keep using it. And if you love these kinds of stories, then more power to you, man. Or girl, because we don't discriminate on this channel. Okay, well, we do, but just about terrible anime and writing, not against our Starbucks-loving fellow weebs. Anyways, I'm not here to anime shame. In 2016, we received one of the most brilliantly written isekai of all time, Grimgar, Ashes and Illusions, and you probably never heard of it. At the surface, it appears like any other isekai, with nothing initially grabbing you and demanding your attention. None of the main characters particularly stand out visually. In fact, the coolest characters are usually the supporting characters surrounding our party. You'll also quickly notice that none of our characters are overpowered. In fact, they're not even remotely powerful. They're weak, they're inexperienced, and they're scared. You see this in their first real enemy encounter. There are very real risks and consequences for any mistakes made, and they make tons of them. Our party isn't special. They aren't prodigies or innately talented. They're painfully, aggressively average. And there's beauty in that. Imagine if you and your mouth-breathing friends were suddenly transported to another world before you could wipe the Cheeto dust off your hands, with absolutely no memory of anything but your names. You are exactly who you are now as far as skills, talents, and even your physical traits. Are you a short king with asthma and ADHD? Well, Cupcake, sucks for you. It might not appeal to the average isekai fan because, well, it's not sexy. It's much more attractive for an anime to immediately shove in your face how cool and strong this character is the second they're transported to this new world. But can you really relate to that character? And do you ever see true growth in the characters that already start off with max stats? No. There's a disconnect. And while it might be fun to watch for a while, you're rarely left wanting more. Conversely, if I had to sum up the world of Grimgar in one word, it'd be grounded. Everything about the characters, story, and settings are grounded. They're all designed for you to relate to and become immersed in. The world is absolutely beautiful to look at. The watercolor art for the backdrops are gorgeous and oddly relaxing, and the character animation is crisp and fluid. The music is captivating and inspiring, and purposeful in each scene. The world of Grimgar becomes every bit as real to you as it is for the main characters. They're all unique individuals with their own personalities, likes, dislikes, and desires. They aren't all likable at first either. They have flaws in their personalities that often create issues in the party. You feel the stress and tension of these leftover rejects trying to form a cohesive party that doesn't just get murked on day one. They aren't instantly thrust into a fight for the survival of the entire world. They're just trying not to die and figure out how to buy food and gear for the next day's adventure. Even the class and fighting system is realistic and relatable. There's no video game HUD or menu prompts telling the characters and viewer everything. There's no super mega galaxy busting omega slash attack that cleaves an entire mountain in two. If you're a warrior, for instance, and you want to get stronger, you gotta train your muscles and dexterity so you can swing your sword harder. It just makes sense. The enemies are more than one-dimensional NPCs that exist just to be killed. They have their own languages, cultures, humor, and fears. They don't want to die any more than our main characters do, and this show does a great job of showing this. And that's one of my favorite things about Grimgar, that it prefers to show instead of tell. There's no hand-holding. If you're not paying close attention to the subtleties, it's easy to miss things. But if you enjoy the nuance and small details, you're rewarded with character insights and growth that feel realistic and yet exciting. You get to see our party grow through hard work and sheer force of will. You see friendships grow and hardships endured. You celebrate when they celebrate, and you mourn when they mourn. Is it a perfect anime? Of course not. I'm not a fan of fan service, and there's a decent amount in the beginning of the show that I honestly could have done without. But it doesn't make a habit of it, and it's actually really well done with how it manages the pervy character trope. But honestly, the biggest flaw of Grimgar, Ashes, and Illusions is that there's currently only one season available. I'm taking my daily shots of copium straight to the jugular, but as of now, there is no season 2 planned. But if you fall in love with this hidden gem and find yourself fiending for more, you're in luck. There's over 20 light novels available that you can read, and the author, Ao Jiumonji, is still writing more. The show only covers the first book and part of the second, so there's enough source material to easily have another 10 seasons made in the future. And man, it gets crazy around Volume 2. That's all I can say without potential spoilers, and there's a bunch. I've got another video I'm making where I dive into more detail and break down the reasons I think this show is so underrated, but obviously there's heavy spoilers, so don't say I didn't warn you. But if you love great character-driven stories with relatable characters, beautiful art, enchanting soundtracks, and grounded, immersive worlds, Grimgar, Ashes, and Illusions is for you. Do you have a favorite anime that you wish was a little less underrated? Let me know in the comment section below.